Hello, everybody. This is Greg Alexander, and welcome to the SBI Podcast. Our guest today in studio is Matt Slonaker. He's the Executive Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for Chronos Solutions. I'm excited to have Matt join us as a guest due to his extensive experience in turnarounds. Pay close attention to this episode as Matt demonstrates how to point a sales force to the right accounts to make your number. Get this, in 2.5 years, he went from a single customer to over 800 customers, and from a very small amount of revenue to over $100 million in revenue. He's a really sharp guy. He's got a lot to share, deep domain expertise in financial services. So if you're in the financial services industry, this is going to be a great show for you. But even if you're not, there's a lot of things that Matt's going to share with you that translate to your industry. So stick around for this one. I think it's worth the time. I think you'll enjoy listening to what Matt has to say.
From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Greg Alexander.
Welcome to the SBI Podcast, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number by getting your peers to share with you how they are making theirs. Today we're going to demonstrate how to go after accounts that are going to spend a lot this year and avoid those that are not. So why this topic? Not all accounts are created equally. Some will spend a little and others will spend a lot. Some are going to spend this year and others will spend next year. Some will respond well to your value prop and others will respond well to the value proposition of your competitors. If you cannot rank accounts best to worst on revenue potential and propensity to buy, you're going to miss the number. So my name is Greg Alexander. I'm the CEO of SBI, and I'm your host. And joining me in the studio is my co-host, Melissa Valdez. And Melissa is here to point you to resources to advance you along the way of making your numbers. So Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone.
All right, and helping Melissa and I today with our demonstration is an executive who knows a lot about this topic. His name is Matt Slonaker. He's Executive Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for Chronos Solutions. And Matt's here in the studio with us. So Matt, welcome to the show, and please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Greg. So Matt Slonaker, and been with Chronos Solutions for a little over 2 years. Prior to that, spent 23 years in various operational roles and sales and marketing in the last 6 years with firms like Nationstar Mortgage, Carrington Mortgage Services. Chronos Solutions, a little bit about the company, about $100 million in revenue. Our target this year, when I came in 2 years ago, it was predominantly focused on one product offering with one government large client. Fast forward to today, and we can now sit here and say we have over 800 active clients that generate some type of revenue for our firm, and 10 core product offerings. Everything from credit reporting, title and settlement services, income verifications, all the way through to online marketing, auction disposition for real estate assets.
Going from one client to 800 clients, that's quite an accomplishment.
I wish we could say we did it all organically, but obviously M&A was a huge factor in that.
Hey, I don't care how you did it. 1 to 800 is pretty good. All right, so we're going to demonstrate, as I mentioned in the opening, kind of making sure that we're spending our time going after the right account. So my first question for you is regarding the ideal customer profile. So what that means is defining, kind of your perfect customer. So you and your sales team and the marketing efforts and the product people can all focus on kind of that perfect customer. So how do you go about defining your ideal client?
Very good question. And so we first start at really two segments. We have our major segment, major markets, and those are companies that comprise typically the top 20, whether they're originators or top 20 mortgage servicers in the industry. And so industry data comes out pretty much every quarter, so we can validate, obviously, the amount of portfolio loans that they have in their servicing portfolios or that they originate. The second segment is our middle market. So we kind of start with that. Middle market also being defined as like credit unions, regional banks. So then we start looking at the profile of those two segments. And so you start with the kind of the revenue potential. And if we look at our 10 core products and services that we have today, majors, we typically have a spend that we could capture of at least $10 million annually in revenue. versus middle market companies, the spend that we could capture if we had each of our products in play is about, say, $1 million.
Okay.
So we look at the wallet share, the spend capability. We then will score these accounts. Majors we do on a quarterly basis. Middle markets we do, I'd say, every 10 to 12 months, usually on an annual planning basis. And so we start looking at their buying habits. We look at their budgets. We look at each product, and we map it to their incumbents, players that are providing the services today. So if I take title, for example, with a bank that's in the top 5, we look at, are they happy with those incumbents? Is there an RFP coming out? And so we look at those various factors and we score those. So what we see is the ones that score very high, and we do a simple 1 to 3, 10 questions. So there's a possible of 30 points. So obviously those that score higher, we typically see win rates that are going to be above 50%. The moderate scoring accounts, we typically have win rates between 20 to 30, and then anything less than that is less than a 20% win rate.
Okay.
And then I think outside of that, we look at their propensity for achieving saves or performance issues. Because if you look at Chronos Solutions, one of the factors that's helping us win larger opportunities over the last 2 years is what we call bundling the various products and services, and we're driving savings in many of these cases that are 15 to 20% cheaper.
Interesting. So I love the fact that you're scoring your majors on a quarterly basis. That's unusual, but I think it's a great best practice. I also love that you keep it simple. 10 questions, 1 to 3, total of 30 points. Sometimes I see people, we're living in this era where machine learning and artificial intelligence is upon us. Everybody wants to create these sophisticated algorithms and feed massive amounts of data to these systems and come up with this, answer that's at the 15th decimal point. But it's not necessarily needed, in my view. Some cases it is, but sometimes not. The questions, do they change frequently? Like, how did you settle on those 1 to 3 questions?
We rely on firms like yourself, partly for research on questions that drive buying behaviors. Some of those questions include, are they engaged in the active buying cycle? So that is stuff that we can get from on-the-ground intelligence through our sales force, as well as through partnerships, and then obviously trade journals, news alerts, and so forth. So it's really a combination of those questions. When we do the quarterly process, we start out by assessing those questions and determine even a weighting. Is this still relevant? I would say that in my time there, we really have kept them constant. We haven't really changed the questions or the weightings. It doesn't mean that we won't, but that's...
Right. And the questions themselves, are they related to scoring the account against an ideal customer profile? Do they also include propensity to buy formulas? Because sometimes you could look at an account and you say, boy, that would be a dream account, but they're locked up in an agreement for 10 years and you can't get to them or something along those lines. So is propensity to buy factored in as well?
Yes, and I think that's where you see the correlation of when we look at our scoring matrix versus our pipeline and deals won. Those that scored high, again, typically we are winning 50% of the ops, which is pretty solid for a B2B win rate.
That's fantastic.
And then the moderate ones, we have 20 to 30. Obviously, the stronger sales executives have more towards the 30, and the junior reps have more around a 20% win rate. And then obviously those that are, say, lower than an 18 out of 30, I'd probably say last quarter we're averaging in 10 to 12% win rates on those. To your point, though, we look at the buying cycles. So when I said middle and major markets, we have opportunities that are taking from first conversation to actual boarding or implementation of the product or service that are averaging about a year. So to your point, it's a longer sales cycle. The middle market, we see those taking about 3 to 4 months. So while they're smaller in size, 80,000 to 100,000 in revenue, you can get a couple of those and board them, 4 turns in a year versus a major opportunity that's, say, $1 million in revenue, but it takes you a whole year to board those.
And in your industry, when I advocate, and you've listened to our stuff and you've engaged with us for many years now, we advocate making decisions based on data. some industries don't have a lot of data. It sounds like you have the data that you need in order to factor this into your propensity to buy formula and your scoring process. Is that true, or are you collecting, as you said, on-the-ground intelligence and tribal knowledge?
So I would say on the accounts that we have relationships with, very solid data, because we are working with them. For instance, we have 20 accounts now that make up about 50 to 60% of our revenue. Versus, again, 2 years ago where there was one account that was 50%, right? So we've really diversified, not just products, but the client base. When we look at those clients basically are sitting here, and we can pretty much get the interviews with the executives. I'm doing some actually next week, flying down to Florida, meeting with them, and we can get, how do you compare us in these products? What's the volume? What's the wallet share? We get that type of data. The other thing we do is within our CRM, we have various tools like Inside View and some other data products that we integrate into the CRM. Our whole philosophy there is make sure that the salespeople are focused on using the CRM. So all of our tools, data, research, we pretty much have integrations into Salesforce.
Yeah.
That's our CRM.
Yeah, got it. So it's a combination of collecting your own intelligence and then augmenting that data with third-party data sources.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. All right, it's probably a good time for us to take a break. Melissa,
Yes.
I want you to tell the audience about the new tool, the Revenue Growth Diagnostic. And the reason why I want you to do that right now, even though I say this on every show, but it's particularly relevant on this show, is that our customers and those people listening right now, they're struggling with account scoring. And we just heard a great example of how to do it. And that's what I would call an emerging best practice, and the Revenue Growth Diagnostic is filled with those, so people might want to benchmark themselves against those. So can you tell everybody about the RGD?
Yes, absolutely. It is an online self-assessment, like you said, which allows you to benchmark your go-to-market strategy against emerging best practices. It's a series of questions. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. It's time very well spent. The output of that is a roadmap to help you prioritize your efforts and increase your probability of making your number.
So I was going to ask you, differentiate an emerging best practice with a best practice.
Sure. Best practice is something that everybody's doing. It's something that you tend to share with your peers. What are your best practices? I think we've all had that conversation multiple times. Well, emerging best practices are on the cutting edge of what you should be doing. So if you want to get ahead of the game, you will subscribe to those emerging best practices.
Yep. All right, very good. And I spend 10, 15 minutes, I take this little test. What do I get?
You will get a roadmap that will help you prioritize your strategy and see the areas where you need to focus on. Each question will ask you to rank yourself, your company, on a scale of 1 to 5 on how well you're performing and also what's most important to you. So at the end of the day, you will get this great roadmap and help you, again, increase your probability of making the number. Great tool for the planning process if you find yourself there right now.
And how do I get it?
You will go to sbi.tips/2018 workbook.
Okay, very good. I know that you're an avid consumer of our content. Have you tried the new tool yet?
Yes, I completed each one.
You did?
Product, sales and marketing.
Pricing, corporate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Corporate strategy. And according to Tom,
Yeah.
I was very harsh on our grade. So again, we're sharing best practices, and we have outstanding growth over the last 2 years, but we are a small firm.
Yeah.
300 total employees in our sales and marketing. To
$100
less than
million
10
bucks,
people.
though.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty good. I mean, 800 clients, 100 million. You know, what I love about your business is sometimes people say, oh, I got 500 salespeople. 500 salespeople is expensive. You're getting a lot done with a small number of people, which means you're getting a lot of leverage in your system, right?
Yes.
So I love that about you guys. So you took them, you were hard on yourself.
Yes.
One of the things the tool does is it says you're likely to make your number or unlikely to make your number. What did it tell you?
Unlikely to make the number.
You're okay.
Being candid. But we have very aggressive targets anyway. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, our growth, put it this way, I think we're on pace right now. I looked at where we're forecasted versus the actual revenue. We're around 80%.
Yeah.
So not too far off, but yes, we're not 100%.
Yeah, okay. So you got a big goal.
Yes.
Yeah. I tell people, sometimes I get asked, hey, Greg, what's the key to quota attainment? I'm like, you got to set the quota correctly. Right? You know, somebody gives you a 500% increase in quota, you could be the greatest salesperson in the world, it might be tough to hit it.
Yes. I was just saying, our owner takes that philosophy as well. So big number.
Yeah. All right, let's jump back into the questions. We were talking about revenue potential, and it sounds like you've got some good data, both third-party data, first-hand data. How do you actually get to the revenue potential in an account?
Good question. So let's start with, I mentioned the 831, 10 core product offerings. We've looked at a product matrix aligned to each of our clients and then our prospects, people that we weren't working with. And we're averaging right now 2.5 products out of our existing clients. Mm-hmm. So if you think about this, I could go and just focus on those 831 existing accounts and not even worry about new logos, right?
Yeah, and do great.
Just increase the products 2x to get 4 products in play, and we should then hit our goal. Obviously, that's a simple way of looking at it. The reality is it's a changing marketplace, changing industry. And so what we do is we start with the accounts that we have, this 20 accounts. We start there. We use our data, and then we also will validate by product how much market share or wallet share do we capture. So if I take online auctions, for example, with a bank, and it's their REO, real estate owned portfolio, we pretty much will know who the competitor or who the other suppliers are. Mm-hmm. And we see with most of our products, they're not going to be sole sourced for regulatory reasons, business continuity. There's various reasons, also just politics. Yeah. You have 5 to 6 decision makers for a product. Right. So we typically are either there's either 2 or 3 suppliers for a product. And so from that, we can then sit down and capture, okay, if there's 3 suppliers and they do 5,000 a year in this, we can capture X. Mm-hmm. And so with our majors and the existing clients, that's a pretty solid way of doing it. Yeah. When you get outside of that, the middle market companies especially, there's not as much data. That's where we do educated assumptions. Yep. Again, we don't figure that will be sole sourced. And we look at their loan origination volume and their servicing portfolio to then factor in an educated guess on how much we can capture.
Okay. So I wanted to visualize for the audience something that you just said there, because I think it's a really practical tool to use. So you said the matrix, right? So I have in my head, like if there was a whiteboard here right now, I would get up and I would list those 20 major accounts vertically on the whiteboard. And then across the top, I'd list your 10 product offerings, and just simply with a check or an X, I would say, okay, where am I penetrated per? And that would establish for me the white space. Correct. Within the account. Is that what you're discussing?
That's exactly the report that Matt looks at.
Yeah.
Another Matt, our CEO and owner, so same. Yeah.
Right. And then you can say to yourself, okay, so when I have sold that product to another account, here's typically the revenue that it generated. So if I use like a lookalike analysis that would say, okay, so I know when somebody buys it, this is what they typically spend. So if this account who hasn't bought it yet spends it, this is what we might expect to get in terms of revenue, and then I just roll it up at the account level, right? Yes. Yeah, that's a really simple yet effective way to do it. And that whole concept of lookalike analysis is, it is an assumption, because not all prospects look like your customers, but you can get within a range of what the potential is.
I'd say 15 points, 15%.
Yeah. You can get within 15%?
Correct.
Okay, that's good advice. So that is both a revenue potential analysis at the product level, and also the last part that you mentioned there with me, because you know you're not going to be sole source, it's also a share of wallet analysis within the account. So let's say you're selling to XYZ Bank, and they're going to give the type of business that you do to 3 providers. Will it be kind of a primary, a secondary, and then someone to keep everybody honest, or do they split it up a third, a third, a third? What's it look like?
I wish there was a blanket answer for that, but it comes down to the individual client.
Does it?
So generally for the 20, it will be based on performance. So we have service level agreements incorporated into our statements of work, specific key performance indicators that get measured. And most of these big banks have scorecards. They have to, right? So it will be based on performance. If there is a cost advantage, some of these deals, we're beating larger publicly traded companies because we're bundling and we are doing it, Auctions, for example, may be at 5% of the sales price, and we may do it at 3.5%, right? So that's 150 basis points difference. So when we do it like that, then obviously you will see clients typically, gravitate more of the volume towards us.
So if I pull that forward into the selling motion, and I want my sales force to go out there and increase the wallet share in an account, if I'm the salesperson, I'm actually dependent upon the performance of my services group.
That's fair. Yes.
Right. So therefore, your services group and your sales force, they must be kissing cousins. They must work really closely together. Is that true?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think it also helps that our most senior and most successful sales people have operational backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so they are not primarily salespeople. I would say we're more advisors. And so selling is a piece of that process, but we have the business domain experience. And in many cases, I always tell my team this, never back out of the deal once it's on. You stay engaged, because as you know, you get commissions over a 2, 3, 4 year life cycle. So you need to stay engaged. And so that's where our business has great transparency, great KPI reporting. We do monthly business reviews, and the sales force will attend those. So there's various ways. Is it perfect? Again, that's where I scored ourselves pretty harsh. But we're obviously doing something right based on the rapid growth in the 2 year time period.
So let me ask you a philosophical question. So you've got operational people in the role of sales. I'm working with a client right now that is in the technology industry, and it's a highly, highly engineered product, and it's being bought and sold to sophisticated technology people. And their best salespeople are former product development people, real engineers. And they have a new CEO that got bought by a private equity firm. The new CEO is saying, hey, product engineers can't be salespeople. It's a different breed. But yet the numbers say the best salespeople are the product engineers. So do you believe that an engineer or an operations type person can be taught how to sell?
I do.
You do?
I do, because that was my background.
Yeah.
And just looking at the growth over not just this company, but the last 2 companies, I would say yes. Then that's why I've stayed in sales and marketing, actually. So I think you can. What I would say in that situation, and just looking at our own industry, it's very technical as well, just between the products, right? A title order is totally different than selling a property online. And so I think what I would recommend is you put your inside sales people that are generating leads and kind of starting the opportunities. That I could go with more of that sales DNA versus operational. But when it comes to multi-million-dollar deals, operational DNA.
Yeah, because you got to be a consultant in that space.
Yes.
Right. The customer's going to ask you a level of sophisticated questions, and you got to know how to answer them.
Yes.
Right.
And you know this too, when it comes to negotiating.
Yeah.
You want to be at the table doing that.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to pass that off and rely
Yeah.
solely on your operations personnel or the P&L owner for that.
Yeah.
So it's working, and I would love to have more of that operational DNA in ourselves.
Yeah.
But we're leaning. What I would say to counter that is your operational people, our ownership and our executive committee, we really focus on them, since they have P&L responsibilities, to also have sales DNA.
Yeah.
So I think that's how you could also flip it.
Yeah. All right, this is probably a good spot for us to take another break. Melissa, I'm envisioning some of the people in the audience coming to the studio, participating in a workshop with some of our experts, and this product wallet share matrix that we just learned about, Matt, which I would consider to be an emerging best practice. Our guys working with those clients and doing that collectively, so the client would leave with that, which I think would be a great exercise. So those that are listening that want to do that, you're probably wondering how to pull it off. So how do I schedule a workshop here at the studio with some experts?
It's actually very easy to pull off. If you go to sbi.tips/2018 workbook, you can take the tool, as we mentioned, which I'm sure you're all out doing right now since we mentioned to do that. Or you can download our Make Your Number workbook, We'll collect your information. We can connect with you that way. The great thing about coming down here to the studio in Dallas, I think Matt can attest to this now, it's a pretty fantastic place.
Yes.
one. But the benefit to you is that we can put you in a room filled with subject matter experts, including Greg Alexander, our CEO here. And we can also schedule, we can come to you, it's fine. We can come to your facility. If you can't make it down to Dallas, it's not a problem. We can schedule that interactive workshop at your facility. But again, the benefit to coming to Dallas is one, you get to come to the studio, and two, you're in a room full of subject matter experts that it's a little bit more tough, it's tougher to pull off if we try to get them all to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so by coming to a central location in the middle part of the country, we can put a lot of smart people in the room. We like to say we can get 3 months of work done in 3 days that way. Think of an intense session, right? So if you're interested in that, go to that URL that Melissa
Sometimes
gave
it's
you.
just good to get out of the business to work on the business.
Yeah, on the business instead of in the business.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes just leaving the physical office allows you to do that. All right, so let's now talk about sales channels and making sure that your most productive channels are covering the accounts with the most potential. So how do you match, I guess in your case, reps, because you sell direct, correct? Or do you have partnerships?
We do, but we have three. So we have our external sales.
Okay.
We just started mid last year an inside sales effort.
Okay.
And then we have partnerships. So really three channels.
Three channels. So you've now got all these accounts scored, and you've got a share wallet analysis all the way down to the product level. So how do you make sure the right people are calling on the right accounts?
Well, we prioritize, I think it's really key because we are a lean team, so just do the math, right? If we really, and take the marketing and the sales ops out of the equation, you really then have an 8 team member group, myself included in that 8, versus the 800 accounts. So as you can imagine, we really prioritize where we spend our external sales force. We basically have them aligned to the majors. And we really have them aligned to the majors where we have an existing product in play.
Okay.
So a person like myself, when I am selling or prospecting, 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, I'm really focusing on those banks. We're working with 50% of the top 10 banks.
Yeah.
So I just need to continue to expand.
Yeah.
If they have 4, I need to get something else in play.
Yeah.
That's the external. We take our inside sales, which is right now 1 team member. We did use a firm that I found through SBI, Market Source, last year for a brief period of time of 2 team members. So we've had either 1 or 2 people doing the inside sales to existing middle market firms where there was a spend of at least $100,000.
Okay.
And so they will focus on that. And then if they get them interested, they do, depending on the product, can fulfill it right there and get paid a commission, or they can do a referral to an external salesperson and we'll close it that way.
Yeah.
And then we have partnerships where they are focused on majors where we don't have relationships. So I mentioned we're working with 50% of the top 10. Obviously there's another 50% we're not working with, so that's where the partnerships come into play.
Yeah. Okay, got it. And the direct sales force that you have, the idea here is to make sure that you're A players. And even though you have a small team, you probably have some distribution of A, Bs, and Cs. You want your A players working on the best accounts. Does that not apply to you because it's a small team and a small number of clients, so it's more of a relationship thing, or are you moving accounts around depending on skill level?
Move accounts around. I would say that, right now with the current team, it really, is a sign at the account level, and they have the relationships and they have the product knowledge, and then we have sales ops backing them up with the operational help. I would say previously when that first came in the first year, we had trials and tribulations of hiring people. And so in a smaller company, as you know, it's harder to hide. And sales is pretty black and white. So we really look at their pipeline. And after 6 months, if they don't have at least 50% in a proposal or later stage, then we're starting on the performance improvement plans. And I would say that in many cases they end up kind of leaving on their own.
Yeah, okay. When you're focused on cross-sell and upsell as you are, expanding wallet share, you dramatically expanded the product offerings that you have. And as you said earlier, if you just focus on these very large customers that you have, increasing the number of products they consume from you, you could be very successful. This is a problem a lot of companies face. And the root of the problem, the root cause of the problem is the customer doesn't fully appreciate everything that you can do for them. They buy something from you and they think that's what you do. And when you try to go talk to them that, hey, I can also do this, this, and this, it's tough to get their attention there. So do you run into this and any secret sauce here in overcoming that?
Yes,
Yep.
we run into it. As indicated, 2-year time period, we did the rebrand of the company from Matt Martin Real Estate to Chronos Solutions.
Yep.
So, if you look at just even our top 20 accounts, I wish I could sit here and say every 20 of those, if you were interviewing them, Greg, would know our 10 core product offerings. That wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
We've made significant traction. And so what I would say, what's our game plan to get that? We are doing things like the executive interview process. So I'm actually flying and meeting with typically the heads of mortgage operations, the heads of mortgage servicing, the head of the mortgage business as a whole, CEOs, and we sit down over an hour and a half, and I have the structured interview questions, just like what you're doing here. Mm-hmm. And we go through that process with them, and that's an educational, right? Mm-hmm. That's where they can hear directly from me, and they can, or Matt Martin, our owner, and they can sit here and understand that, hey, look, we do these services. Here's who we do them for. Yeah. Here's the value that we're generating. So we do it through that process. The other thing that we do is direct mailing campaigns, namely through emails, where it's targeted based on the persona, and we tell her the messaging. If it's a senior level person, that's a more of abbreviated. We even use videos. I think that's going to be a growing trend. So that's something offline I'd love to pick your brain about. So we use videos, direct emails, trade shows, another way of getting our branding out there. And then I think the client testimonial is something that we have to continue to do a better job of. I'm now just really focused on going back to our existing clients and have them give statements that we can leverage. So again, it's an educational process. And if I tell the one CEO over here that this CEO over here, it's a small industry, hey, pick up the phone, call so-and-so. And that has immense value.
Yeah. All the research says, when they ask a CEO, when you make a purchase decision, what's the most important thing for you? And they say references, when they say, how did you find company XYZ? They say, I was referred to them. I had a problem. I called a buddy of mine, somebody who I trust, and I say, hey, have you ever used anybody to do this? And they're like, oh yeah, you should call these guys. They do a good job. So those testimonials and those references and endorsements and use cases and case studies, in the B2B world, and especially in the space that you're playing in, which are mission critical operations with a very small, tight community of people, those things are absolutely essential.
I think there's one piece that you do well at SBI, and I think we're really focused on too, is social media.
Yeah.
You look at LinkedIn. If you look at my page, I encourage your viewers to connect with me. Yeah. I put a new piece on every day, and sometimes your team are putting 5 pieces on almost new every day. Yeah. So I think staying pertinent, staying out there in the public. I have over 5,000 followers on my LinkedIn, so I average about 2,000 views per post. So if you think about social, that's more effective actually than some of our direct email campaigns. Yeah. And I'm connected with senior level people. So that's one of the ways too that people, I always laugh when I go to a conference and people will come up to me and say, hey, I saw your post on this, or I saw your video. Yeah. I'm sure you get that as well.
I do, yeah. It's good to hear, because I hear that financial services is not open to social media. Is that an old myth?
I would say that's still true.
Is it? Yeah.
It's still true. If you look at, I wish I could say that all of our salespeople have great LinkedIn profiles that detail what the company does, the value, and they put the videos. It's still a lag. Yeah. And so if it's a lag in our firm where you have somebody that's passionate about sales like me and our owner, you can imagine our industry, it's still lagging.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, that's all the time we have. But I loved having you on here. You guys are doing fantastic. Congratulations on all your success, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with our audience. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Melissa, before we jump, I think there's one more thing we want to make the audience aware of. Is that right?
Yes. Please go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/register and register for a My SBI account. We don't want you to miss out on all of this great content. So if you go register for your account, you can actually select the topics of interest to you. and you can choose when you want to receive your content.
Very good. All right, and I want to thank the SBI audience for tuning in. As always, we appreciate your support. Hopefully you got a lot out of today, as I did, and because of your support, we're able to attract great guests like Matt. So keep tuning in and telling all your friends about it. But that's it for today. As always, until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.